Hello, my quilting friends. My name is Leah Day, and welcome to podcast number 91. And today I'm chatting with Vicki Holloway again, this time about blogging in 2019. So I had Vicki on the show about this time last year, and we talked about time management. She has a really good take on that because Vicki not only runs a long arm quilting business, she's also a nurse and she blogs. So she really had a great perspective on time management in our first interview, and then now she's back and we're talking about blogging and how her blog has evolved and changed and what she uses it for now in 2019. So I hope that you're looking forward to this interview with Vicki and learning more about this. Now, what's going on around the house? I always share a little introduction about what I'm really doing behind the scenes. If you like to jump straight to the interview with Vicki, check right below the video for a timestamp where you can fast forward to exactly the point in the show where I stop gabbing and get on with the point of it. So here we go. I am actually cutting out lots of green fabric to make some extra squares. I made some half square triangles, or I should say Dad made me a whole bunch of half square triangles last week, and now I'm cutting up some beautiful green squares. And the reason is I had this idea for an extra quilt in next month's Friendship Quilt Along block. Basically, this is a next month's block. I love that it's not a mystery this year. I can just show you the blocks as they're coming. So this is a big tree. It is a beautiful patchwork block with a tree on the diagonal made with half square triangles. And this is called Tree of Life. And this is our block for next month. Super scrappy happy, lots of different fabrics. And yeah, 45 half square triangles. Not a small job by any means, but it'll be so much fun to make. And I had this idea for making a quilt, a big quilt from this block, just basically taking that block, supersizing it, and turning it into a throw size quilt. And then, of course, once I had the idea, I couldn't let it go, so I have to go and make that quilt now. And that's going to be an extra bonus pattern included in next month's pattern. So I hope that you'll come and check that out. You can find all of the friendship blocks linked up together at leahday.com/friendship. And yeah, the Tree of Life block plus bonus quilt pattern will be out on February 1st. I'm kind of like, what month is it? Yeah, February 1st. So I'm slicing this up real quick. I decided to add an extra pieced border that will be a lot of fun. And I had this whole stash of green fabrics, and I bought like 5 solids, you know, all different colors of greens. And I just thought, oh man, that would be just the absolute perfect border to go around this tree quilt. And what's nice is I'll be able to piece it together, and then that might be a new video for Frame Quilting Friday for my long arm quilting tutorials. So yeah, just a nice way of adding a little extra bonus and also getting to make another quilt. And once I had this idea, I was like, I would really love a pretty tree quilt to go on my couch. And it'll be like, I think 72 inches finished. So it'll be a nice throw-sized quilt. Perfect. And just in case you have not been following along with the podcast, we have started the Friendship Quilt Along. This is block 2. It's a patchwork mosaic. And just this week, I shared a tutorial on how to quilt this design. It's a combination of straight lines with ruler foot quilting and loopy line, and I quilted that on my long arm. And what was interesting is that it really changed how I had to think about quilting it and the design, because I don't have a very big long arm. It's actually quite narrow, and I only have about 10 inches that I can quilt in comfortably with my ruler plate on the machine. So I wanted to have diagonal lines going through the middle of the block, but that would have been bigger than my frame allows, and I would have had to break thread a lot and then kind of advance the quilt and pull up thread and try and connect it all together, and it really wouldn't have worked. So I broke it down and quilted it in quarters instead, and I learned a lot. I really did. I love this. This is the first year that I'm pushing myself to share tutorials not just on my home machine but also on the long arm. I'm quilting 2 of each block, so you get 2 different designs, 2 different takes on how to quilt it. And it really depends on how big of a quilt you're making, how many blocks you need to make. So I'm making a king sized, so that means I need to make 2 of each block, so it works out perfectly for me. But if you're doing throw or a twin sized or a crib sized, then you only need to make 1 block, and that's just fine. So yeah, I hope that you'll come and check out the videos and the tutorials. You can find everything linked up, plus all of the patterns at leahday.com/friendship. Now, speaking of the Friendship Quilt Along, I have got to say a super, super thank you to everyone that joined our new Quilting Friends Club. So this is a new group that we've created. It's a membership club. And so for less than the cost of a fat quarter a month, you can join in the fun and become my best quilting friend. So basically, yeah, this is a membership club, $2.99 a month or $24.99 a year. And it is just a special place. It's a brand new platform. It's off Facebook. It's away from all the other social media places that aren't a lot of fun these days. And it's just for us. And it's really nicely organized so that you can more easily find the posts that you're interested in, like the Friendship Quilt Along. And I just love seeing all of the blocks that have been posted so far, all of the pretty pictures. It's just really wonderful to see. And I gotta say, this is helping me feel so supported and appreciated. It really, really is, guys. We have 175 members as of today, and in future podcasts, I'm going to read off the new members, but I figure that's quite a few people to be reading their names. So for this week, I'm just going to simply say thank you so much for joining in, for being willing to support us, and for letting me know that you really value what we do. That has really helped me out so much. I can't say how much. That really, it's just filled my bucket right up to the brim, totally. So thank you. Now you can find this new club and be able to support the podcast and all of the videos that I create at quiltfriends.club. And I do have a special extra video series that's only going to be shared there. It's called How Do I Quilt This? And so basically you can share a picture of a quilt you're struggling to pick a quilting design for and ask for help. And then once a month I'll take those images, I'll print them out and share 3 different design ideas for those quilts. And so I just shot the first video this week, and that's going to be going up on Thursday. So I hope that you'll join in the fun, check this out, and help support us in our efforts to continue sharing free tutorials and quilt-alongs and this podcast as well. So again, you can check it out at quiltfriends.club. So what else has been going on around the house? It has been kind of a crazy weekend. We went up to Asheville for Josh's birthday, and we went to Biltmore House. And I gotta say, Josh and I had an annual pass to Biltmore House back in 2005. And so we would go there fairly often, in the early days when we first got married. And we worked at home. We were really, kind of busy and really focused when we were in our apartment. And so it was really good to be able to get out and walk around in a place that had a lot more space. And so that's why we really got to know Biltmore very well, because we'd go, a couple times a month or so during that time. Well, it's changed so much over the years, and not always necessarily towards the positive, and that's really unfortunate. So we got there, and it was raining, and it was really crowded, and then they made you walk through a full body scanner to get in the house, which is totally new, and I don't know, and then it felt very Carnival Cruise-ish. They kind of made you take a photo, and it was just a lot less fun than it used to be. And it was just really frustrating. We kind of felt the same way about Renaissance Festival. We went to Renaissance Festival this fall, and it was just so crowded. It was just so crazy, crazy crowded that everything we did, we had to stand in line for not short lines, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes just to get some food. And ultimately, what we started thinking about and really started working on is just trying to figure out what feels fun for us. And it's not what it used to be, and I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, I feel like things like Renaissance Festival have become mainstream, whereas before, when I was in high school, 12, 15 years ago, that was niche. It was for nerds, you know, it was for people that liked that kind of stuff. But now that's really become more mainstream. And now we need to find something else to do that, you know, that's our own thing. And I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what, I think just staying at home and, you know, working on a project here and, you know, cleaning out the barn, which I still haven't done yet. And, you know, that kind of thing. I think that's more our thing now. And just having, I guess, just keeping that in mind, and just that we can give ourselves permission just to stay home and have a great time here with each other, play ping pong, you know, watch some fun movies, work out in the yard, you know, that kind of thing. And kind of in that line, I'm researching getting rabbits. So we've had chickens now for several years, and Josh, that's his thing. You know, he's very much occupied with that. And he's actually said, look, if we take on any more animals, we have 2 cats, a dog, a hamster, 4 fish tanks, and about 30 chickens. He was like, I'm at my limit. I can't take on anything else. So if we take on rabbits, then that's going to be 100% all me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm doing some research and reading about it, and I think it'll be fun. I had rabbits when I was a little girl, and of course, Miss Bunny, you know, I love rabbits. So I think that'll be a really good thing to add to the yard, and we've got space for them. And I would like to have somebody else to take care of. You know, I'd like to have a little bit of something outside, a reason to go outside, a reason to rustle around outside and move. Some days I will stay inside for like 3 days straight and not go outside at all if I don't have to. So I think that'll be good. Really, really well. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, I need to get out to the wood shop and clean that out. That's on my list. But I will be honest, I have been doing a lot of work kind of behind the scenes on different things. I finally got the downloadable version of Miss Bunny done this week. So if you have been waiting on a downloadable version, so that way you don't have to pay shipping, that is available now. You can download it and print her out and be able to make your Miss Bunny doll and her dress. And I'm going to shoot a tutorial on making her dress and panties very, very soon. I actually just ordered a cut and sew pattern too from Spoonflower. So I'm trying out, I'm experimenting first just to see if this will even work. But basically I took the shapes of Miss Bunny, I spread them out over a 1-yard panel, and I'm going to see if I can cut her out and sew her from that. So instead of having to pick different fabrics and stuff, you can get all of, you know, a specific color of Miss Bunny with a cute dress, with her panties, all done on 1 yard of fabric. Like I said, I don't know if this is going to work yet or not, guys. This is kind of a cross my fingers and hope that this is going to be okay, but we'll see. It's fun to experiment with new things, and I'm still looking for that challenge. I'm still looking for that, you know, what do I not know how to do yet? You know, where, kind of what is the process of figuring that out? And then what is the process of getting faster at it and learning that? And I had the idea as I was working on that for a Valentine's Day Miss Bunny. Now don't get your hopes up. This probably won't be Valentine's Day this year, but I will attempt to do a cute Valentine's Day colored Miss Bunny with a heart dress. So she'll have hearts printed on her dress. That's just an idea that popped in my head. If not that, maybe an Easter Miss Bunny. So she has, I don't know, some sort of Easter pattern on her dress. That would be fun too. So now that I have this idea, of course, I'm kind of getting so many other ideas are coming from it. So it's a whole rabbit hole of stuff, but I love what I do. I really, really do. And I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. This is just so much fun. Now, the not fun side of it is things like keyword research. And I did a lot of that for Mally the Maker yesterday. And it's just, I realized I made a mistake with how like the category I picked for that book. You know, there's just so much to book publishing that I don't know much about, especially fiction. Mally the Maker and The Queen and the Quilt is my fiction novel, and it's about a 10-year-old little girl and her adventures in a magical quilt world. Well, I put that in the same category that I had been putting my nonfiction quilting books, you know, in quilting, basically. that's completely the wrong category. So all yesterday, I was spending time just updating categories and updating keywords and trying to think of the right keywords that people would be searching for to find this book. And I realized it is a children's novel. It is age, really appropriate for 8 to about 12. Anyone else can read it and enjoy it, but that's really the age group it fits into, so that's the category it should be in. And of course, changing that makes me terrified that quilters will never find it now, but this is all a learning process, and it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of stretching my brain, we'll put it that way. It's stretching my brain. And I should say, I finally finished my Rise to the Challenge of Your Life book. That is done. I printed it out and handed it off to Josh for editing. Still don't know if that's going to be something I publish and share with the world. We will see, but I am officially getting back to Mally Book 2. I'm using dictation, I've reset my outline, I'm using a new book that I just recently found called The Snowflake Method for outlining and sorting through some little plot issues that I had. And it has helped me so much get everything straight, and now I have a very, very good perspective on the whole book. And what was interesting, writing this other book, Challenge, it ended up being kind of a memoir. It has made me a faster writer because I've realized that I need to really free write in the evening and just kind of get all my words down on the page. And then in the morning, I kind of take that and do some editing and tweaking, and I just work a little bit more slowly in the morning. But as long as I have both of those times every day, then I can average something like, 1,000, 2,000 words a day. So my goal is to have Mally Book 2 done, the rough draft of it done by James's birthday, and that's at the end of February. So that feels great. I really feel like I got my goals on track, and I'm excited about this book. I'm excited to see where it goes. I gotta say, I'm gonna have to go straight into book 3 for reasons I can't tell you right this second. But another thing that is gonna be new and exciting is Josh is writing some short stories for the Mally universe, and that's going to be something I add to this podcast where, I think maybe, cross my fingers, maybe, I can't promise it, but maybe next week we will have our first story starring Scant, the bright, hot pink rooster, and his adventures in quilts. So he's if you read Mally the Maker, this pink rooster, all you see is a scene where he flies in and saves a chicken and baby chicks from something that's going to destroy them. And I don't know why, but Josh just fell in love with that idea. He just really latched onto it and kept making up stories about him. And he was just telling me these stories and telling me this guy's name. And of course, Josh keeps chickens and he has a rooster, so he likes roosters. And so finally I just said, I have this idea. Why don't we start doing some short stories and add that to the podcast? And Josh was like, can I write that Scant story? Can I share that story that I've been wanting to write? And I said, absolutely. So it's kind of like triple duty. Not only is it more stories for the Mally universe, which makes me happy, it gives me a chance to practice audiobook narration, which I gotta say, guys, is totally my thing. I love it. But I will be practicing. It won't be something I share in video because I will be practicing in my sound recording booth. And I say that in quotations because it's my closet. It is my master bedroom closet, which is extremely tiny and full of all of my clothes. So yeah, it's impossible for me to film a video in there. It'll just be audio, and it'll give me a chance to practice audiobook narration in a professional way, and then editing and mastering so that the audio is as absolutely professional as it can possibly be. So I'm excited about this. I think that it'll be really, really fun, and it'll give you more from the Mally universe, and I hope it'll be entertaining and you'll enjoy the stories, and it'll be something you can share with your kids, and it'll give me an opportunity to practice and build the skill more than anything else. So yay, it's all good. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. Josh said he is going to finish the book today, the little short story. He's going to finish that today and hand it off to me, and we'll see. I'll let you know if we're going to be having that as the podcast next week. So I hope that you enjoy these little introductions and seeing what's going on around the house. I hope that you are enjoying our beautiful friendship quilt along, and you're looking forward to not only our next block, the beautiful infinity tree, but also that bonus quilt pattern. I got my pieces now all cut out. So I'm going to go and start piecing this together and make my bright green tree quilt for the couch. I can't wait. So I hope that you have an amazing quilting week, have lots of fun, and remember to join in the fun of the Quilting Friends Club. If you'd like to support this podcast, if you want to tell us that you really enjoy it and want it to continue, come and join in the fun at quiltfriends.club. And now here is the podcast interview with Vicki Holloway all about blogging in 2019. Hello, my quilting friends. I'm here today with Vicki Holloway of mycreativecorner3.wordpress.com, where she quilts one stitch, one block, and one row at a time. Today we're chatting about blogging in 2019. So let's begin with your blogging experience, Vicki. How long have you been doing this?
I started my blog in 2008. And I started out as social media, actually. My daughter was a teenager and started blogging, and it was really social media with her teenage friends. And I decided, hey, I think there's quilting people out there. I love quilting. I love talking about stuff. So it was a journal for me to keep track of the things that I made, because if you're like me, Leah, I make things and I look back on it years later and I don't remember making it, or I don't remember what inspired me, or where did I buy that particular tool. So I tried to put that kind of information on my blog. And then, do you remember blog rings?
Yes.
Yes. And I was like, that was how I found people who quilted, because there weren't very many people in northern Michigan at the time that I knew of. And it was a way for me to connect with people who quilted the kind of funky, weird, modern, Gwen Marston-inspired stuff versus the traditional quilts that is so much a part of Michigan's history. So that was how I started with blogging. And it just, I like writing too. And it was, photography evolved over time. I look back on I kept all those posts up. I go back once in a while and I look and I cringe at some of my digital camera limited technology and my limited knowledge. And but it's fun to see how you grow over time, and that's part of why I started blogging.
Yeah, and I'm completely with you. Actually, your blog is older than mine. I started in 2009, and yeah, those old posts, it's kind of like, I want to go in there and fix them, but it's kind of preserving where they were and where I was at the time is kind of nice too. So I mean, there's kind of a catch-22 there. Have you ever gone through and done a massive edit? Right now I have videos that have just dropped links and I need to go back in and do all of that. Have you ever had to do anything like that?
No, I need to though, because I know I maxed out my photo storage capacity on. I have two sites. One was on Blogger back in the day, and I currently have my WordPress site. So yeah, some of the photographs have dropped off, and I need to go back through, because I have all of the pictures still in a backup file on the cloud. So I need to do it, and it's one of those, maybe I'll do it in the winter when I'm bored, and then I wind up starting and get overwhelmed and kind of thought, well, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is really overwhelming. So you've made the switch from Blogger to WordPress too. So I'm glad that you said that, because I just recently did the exact same thing, and it's a pretty big deal. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that process?
It really was pretty seamless. WordPress has a lot of great modular types of ways to set up your blog, and I got in on a grandfathered free account.
Nice.
Back in the day. If you came over from another site, you got it for free. Now I don't have much storage space, so how I get around it is now they allow you to embed all kinds of HTML codes, like your YouTube video or your Instagram account. So I thought, well, this is a great way for people to know that I spend most of my time actually not on the blog, but on Instagram or on Twitter. So that's kind of where I've migrated to WordPress, because I like that. And over time, they've updated their editing programs, and it just seemed to be much easier to use, and they kept the spam bots away. I got really, really frustrated with that a few years ago and saw that I had a lot of international bots looking at my account, and that made me concerned about security and just reading things. And I think I've not noticed that with WordPress, so I've been pretty happy with it. I may upgrade at some point to host different, more photos on there. Again, I still put pictures, but they're usually reposts from Instagram. And the nice thing about it is you can put whatever feed you want on the sidebar. So templates, so many things. So do you design your own web space, or does Josh do that for you?
Oh my gosh, it was kind of a thing this fall. Okay. No, Josh did not do it for me, and I didn't do it either. I have this 2,000 plus posts, and I didn't want to lose anything, and I didn't want to lose my links either. That was a big deal. Losing your links online, just in case somebody is getting started with this and doesn't know, your link is the thing that gives you traffic. And if that changes or it doesn't work anymore, you're essentially it's like shutting your door in a store and then not posting a picture or a piece of paper that says, hey, we've moved over here, and you just lose all the traffic. So that was really important.
I did. I noticed that because I actually did just shut the door on the one and went to the other, and it took several years to reconnect with all those people that I used to know on the blog rings. And of course, that door got shut because technology changed and social media started. So it's interesting how after all these years, I've reconnected with most of those people. We've organically found ourselves again. But blogs are interesting because you can do so much with them. But my question over this last couple of years is, how much time do I really want to spend on the blog? Because people don't seem to like to read a lot of stories anymore as day-to-day journals. I mean, when I started, there were huge amounts of words in blogs where you could read like daily short stories of people's lives. Some of the people were knitters, and some of them were quilters and crafters, but there were only a few, and we all read them voraciously every day. It was like a soap opera, just waiting to see whose baby was going to be born. Did you get that sweater done? Did your house flood in the storm? I mean, you really felt part of people's lives. But then everybody started blogging, and then I got overwhelmed with trying to figure out, well, how do you keep up? And here we are a decade later, and it's hard because everyone has a blog who does any kind of business, and any kind of crafting people usually post about it, whether it's on a blog or social media. So I think I had to, this last year's was an experiment for me. I don't know if you've done some experimenting with your blog, but I kind of decided I don't want to write all that personal stuff anymore. And maybe once in a while I'll say, oh, this week we went on a vacation and here's a couple of snapshots of what we saw. And I've gone to more private posting for myself for therapeutic reasons, or maybe I had a rough day, or I'm mad about something and it's a good way to get it out, but not air my laundry all over the internet, But yeah, blogging. So I've noticed actually over the last year I've got more people coming to the blog. But what are they doing? So that's interesting about WordPress's metrics. Even on a free site, we can look at what are they looking at, where are they going, what country are they from. It's kind of creepy, actually, if you really want to get down to it. So I realized that most people come to short and sweet posts, videos or pictures, and tutorials and things. So I've kind of changed what I do on the blog versus I used to spend hours and hours writing these flowing, beautiful word stories. I'm like, oh, come on, that's not even my life, is it? Is it my life? I don't know. But I like to write stories. So I think that there is a venue for that. But blogging has changed for me over the last 12 years. And I've decided that I'm going to spend my time on a different platform. But I use that blog more as a landing page. So if people are looking for anything by Vicki Holloway, Vicki Holloway Quilting, or My Creative Corner 3. That's the name of my blog and my podcast. They can find it there, and they'll find links to all the free stuff I have for tutorials, which aren't not a lot, but I have a few. You want to see where my Instagram is? That's great. If you want to see where I'm selling a couple of patterns, there's a link there. I have a Twitter account. I haven't figured that one out, though. I'll be honest. I post to Twitter, but I don't get it.
Neither do I.
If you want to see any of that, it's there on the blog. So I kind of use it as an organizing space for my brain to put it all somewhere where it's in one spot and I can see it. And if I can see it and make sense of it, maybe somebody else who's looking for a little bit about me or about where I can be found is posted there. So that's kind of my new thinking on the blog over the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be working because people are coming and looking at it and commenting for the first time in a long time. So commenting has dropped way, way down over the last few years. I think people have so many places they can comment that they do, but also there's a lot of fearfulness and scariness of commenting because there's always a risk when we tell somebody something. So anyway, I don't know. What are your observations, Leah?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you said that. Do you feel like people are getting both? I mean, I feel like it's two things at once. It's both an excess sensitivity, so everybody's getting way more sensitive, but then there's also the flip side of everyone's getting a lot more rude. Have you noticed this too?
Yes, and misinterpretations. I think sometimes, I'm a nurse, so most of my life is spent reading nonverbals. And so most of our communication is nonverbal communication. It's our voice sounding, our facial expressions, what our eyebrows are doing. And when we don't have that, and we just start putting stuff, sometimes I caught myself even, I was trying to be funny, and it was totally misinterpreted by somebody. And I'm like, no, this wasn't negative. This was like my attempt poorly at humor. So some of it, I think, is people just are making comments and they either A, don't think about it, or B, maybe they're communicating it poorly through words, and we're interpreting a lot. I mean, there's a lot of studies out there that show that we really do lose a lot of interpretation based on just a 20 to 30 word answer. But the other part of it is, people are not afraid to share their opinion. Everything from what your hair looks like to my nasty fingers because I have arthritis, or I don't do my nails sometimes when I do a video. But generally speaking, I haven't got too many of them, but I have seen those kind of comments put on other people's posts, and I'm like, seriously? Does it really matter if that shirt clashed with the quilt, or you think it did? Or I heard one quilt teacher once, and I think I said this last time, she did a survey at the end of a class, and the only comment she got was that they didn't like her hair. And I'm like, seriously, if that's all you have to say, Mama said, if you have something that's not nice, don't spread it around. Keep it to yourself.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. So people are not afraid to share their opinions because everyone has an opinion on a quilt block. Everyone has an opinion on thread, and they certainly have opinions about my hair, but that's okay. I've learned to try to go with it, but there's also a space in blogging where I think you have a little bit more control on comments if you moderate them, and that becomes this big burden if you get a lot of commenters. But moderating the comments, I think, helped get that down a little bit because people are going to know that you're looking at them before you approve them. But
it's kind of, sometimes, and I think Facebook is really bad about this, a lot of times a Facebook post will go up just because no one can control it. A lot of it is just attention seeking, and that's just the nature of Facebook, which is why I call it a cesspool. It's not a very nice place to be. On a blog, yeah, I use comment moderation, so a comment has to pass through me before it goes online. I don't do that on YouTube, and I'm finding an uptick now on YouTube nastiness. And, I catch it and delete it, and that's it. It's not something to get really crazy about or emotional about, but, and it's so easy, and I catch myself doing this all the time. It's so easy letting that one negative, completely override the 12 positive comments that I got the same day. So I always have to try and keep that in mind more than anything else. So here's a question. You were on the show about this time last year, and it was a podcast about time management. So that's a big thing with blogging, and it sounds like you're on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. So this is a lot of time-consuming stuff. So what are your tips on posting? What's your schedule? Like, do you post in the morning? Do you post in the evening? How do you keep track of it all? I'm kind of just feeling overwhelmed, and so I'm just not doing it.
I know exactly what you're saying. And that was this last year was some experimenting on that, because I found that I was in a lot of blog hops, over a couple of years and I did another blog hop this year, and it's like, man, that was a lot of work. And I enjoyed my time doing it, but posting it more instantaneously on some other short little blurbs in, say, Twitter or Instagram was much easier. So what I have done is I found that the bones of most blog posts, you can find snippets of it possibly on another platform. And I will do those instantaneous reports possibly throughout the week as we go. And then have specific posting days. Well, I try to do it, on a weekend because I have more time. But occasionally that doesn't happen. And I try to post once a week. And I usually use the bones of the blog post come from the inspiration of what I had done. It's like a recap.
Yeah.
What did I do the week before? Then I will also use it as a place to post, hey, this is when I'm putting up my podcast. And that's usually once a week. And so I usually try to post once or twice a week, depending on what's what. But I have decided that I'm limiting myself to social media in the morning for quilting to 30 minutes. When I get up, I have coffee, and I do a daily post. I do have a Facebook group, and so far so good. We haven't run into meanies. But the minute it starts, I'm not going to tolerate it either, because if it starts off with negativity. But I think part of it is I structure every day's conversation with a daily creative prompt challenge. And I usually come up with something the night before as I'm working on my handwork, post in the morning, do some Instagram posting, and I've decided, it's okay if you don't post every day. And you don't have to post 5 times a day. People don't need to know that I'm having French fries at lunch today. Those kinds of posts. But, so that's where I'm limiting it 30 minutes. And then I check in at the end of at noon for about 15 minutes. And again at the end of the day. Trying not to let it dominate my life, because it can be a rabbit hole that you go down and you will never resurface if you allow it. And there's a lot of comparison that can happen that can suck the life out of your joy in life. And I mostly look at, commenting as conversations, with people. And if I'm going to get somebody that makes a negative conversation, I usually don't take it personally for me, but I don't like that it shuts down the conversation that we're having with other people. So I try to structure that with a daily prompt challenge on my Facebook group. I also post, hey, I posted, this topic today or whatever. But so far we haven't run into that, but it's a small group. I think once you hit over 1,000 to a few thousand people, it can become pandemonium. And I have a family member who is a social media manager of a page. So I get advice for free from my relative, and I think if I ever decide to go, it gets big and I can't do it, I would have to hire somebody to help with that. And then you have to look at, is it worth it?
Yeah. Totally.
Because it's a lot of money, and if people are, I don't know. I think we can all share and be nice, but also there has to be a purpose to why we're posting things in groups. And Facebook, I've had 4 episodes in my brain over this last year, every quarter, where I think I'm going to leave Facebook because it's so much work and there's not a lot of positivity that comes out of it. But then I realized my mom and my children, who are adults, post there. So I keep going there because they like to see what's going on. And if I have to, I'll narrow the scope someday. But I don't know. I haven't tried some of the other social media too much, like Snapchat. It's just weird. I'm too old for that. I have a couple of relatives that I do have Snapchats with occasionally, but to go public and have 1 million people, oh my word, it's too weird for me. So if you're a Snapchat person, kudos to you, because I can't figure it out.
Seriously, it's like Twitter. I mean, I just kind of like, what? I don't really get it. And just in case you guys might have missed an older podcast, I had Facebook groups and we shut them down this summer. And I'm sure you probably saw that, Vicki. It was just too much. And you're right. It kind of gets into a question of, is the juice worth the squeeze? And and then Josh and I have both kind of dealt with gaming addiction, which is very, very bad. I mean, you wouldn't think that you could get sucked into a video game and feel the pressure to play that every single day, but it has happened to both of us. And I'm very careful now to not get addicted to anything else that I feel like some sort of pressure to check in on every day. So it's almost like I feel a love-hate relationship with all social media. Anything that makes me feel pressure to check it or go and post every day, I almost instantly just decide not to, because I don't want to get sucked into that again. And this is the thing. I feel like, there's value in these things, but my worry is, especially Facebook, I started finding that it was just really hard to go back, like the blog. Blogs are so easy to go back and look at all of the old content. It's so easy to go back and peruse through 2008, and go back. It's very hard to go all the way back in Facebook. What are your thoughts about that?
No, I agree, and that's part of the reason why I've kept the blog going. So instead of spending so much time writing all the flowery stories I used to do, I post an audio podcast. It's usually 30 minutes. I can go back and listen to it. I can see that it's right there, little show notes to jog my memory. What was I doing 2 years ago? So I find that to be helpful, and the same with pictures. Like you can get 10,000 pictures, uploaded so fast into my cloud, where the blog still helps me in my brain go, oh, we went on this trip on this date. That's right. So I agree with you on that. Where other platforms, I kind of use them also as journals. They're very difficult to sort through. They're very difficult to figure out an order. And that's where that's why I like this landing page idea for my blog, because I can key search a word up at the top, and then it'll take me right to that post. I'm like, oh yeah, I posted that on Instagram on that day. And oh yes, I did this and that. That's why I keep it. Mm-hmm. There's been a couple times where I think, is it worth it? And I think it's really an organizational tool for me. It's a way to get it out of my brain and in a digital format that I can easily search, not keep a paper scrapbook like I used to, because I lost them all and I couldn't figure out what I did with them. I found them again, but I'm a terrible losing things in my house. I tuck them inside boxes. Do you do that?
You hide it too well, but that's what you do. You hide it too well from yourself.
And then I can't find it. So that's why I like putting it up on a blog. But I think the other point is social media is going to come and go.
Yep.
It's going to come and go, and there'll be a point where some of us were using that as a way to put our stuff in the cloud. Well, if it goes bankrupt and it's not there, we'll lose it all. And therein lies a lot of the problem. So I figure even if something, say Instagram, let's say all the photos that I have posted get lost because they get bought out by somebody or whatever, I still have a note on that day of what I did, and I can go back in my cloud and go, that's right, that happened on this day and this day, and I can find the picture. So sorting and organizing is kind of what I'm using it for, and I think that the pendulum might swing back. in the next couple of years of people reading blogs more. I think part of what happened is social media all over blew up, and we have all these millions of options. We were posting the same thing 25 times on all the social media. And then we were getting lost as quilters looking for other quilters. We couldn't find our tribe anymore. And some people decided they wanted to go to this place and that place. But it is an addiction. I have dealt with some social media addiction over the last few years myself. And I didn't get into gaming as much as, say, you or maybe my millennial children. But I did grow up with video games, and I did grow up with being addicted to crafts whenever, or terrible television. And so as an adult, I've had to really structure that time. So I limit it. That's a long answer for your question, but I do limit it. 30 minutes, and then 15 at lunch, 15 for quilt stuff, 15 for family in the evening. And overall, I think I want to spend my time really with real people.
Yes.
That's where all of my business is coming from, honestly. I looked it up over the 12 years I've blogged for long arming and classes and things like that. I can count maybe a dozen times, maybe once or twice a year for 12 years where I got an internet referral.
Wow.
My business, yes, the rest of my business came from a real life, face-to-face contact.
Yeah.
And that's that's the way my business runs. And it's a side business. I still, I work full-time somewhere else, but that's how it's worked for me. And it didn't work for me as basing it all on internet. And I still think there's a personal touch that has to go in everyone, no matter where you base your business. But yeah, so that's kind of where I thought, you know what, I need to spend more time with real people, because that's where my business comes from.
Totally. You're completely right. And, I think in long arming too, it's kind of, you get a lot of, like you said, nonverbal communication by seeing someone in person, like, hey, she's covered in cat hair and, kind of smells like cigarette smoke. I'm not so sure I want her to quilt my quilt. So,
well, exactly. And the other part is trying to get a photograph of a picture of your quilting. You have it down to a science.
Oh, thank
you. But I've struggled with that over the years of trying to figure out, how do you communicate this picture, this three-dimensional touchy-feely thing? I mean, I have to touch the quilt and feel all the texture and get right down and look at the stitches. So it's really hard to communicate that online sometimes. And that's why I think if people can see it, I get a lot of business from people seeing the work and chatting with me and realizing that, I have a pet-free, smoke-free home. I have, these, things that I'm honest, I'm trustworthy. I hit the timetables, those kinds of things.
Exactly. And as you said, it's one of those things that I just think that, getting a long armor in person kind of also makes sense just for the simple pick up and drop off. You don't have to pay for shipping, all that kind of stuff. It does get really expensive. That's the number one thing that I hear from people wanting to quilt their own quilts, is it's just gotten too expensive to hire it out. So, in a way,
worry so much.
Exactly.
You've never met this person, and you're giving your firstborn child of your quilt to somebody and hoping that it's as loved as you love it. And it's really hard. I don't think I could do it. That's part of the reason why I even started long arming, because I couldn't give my little precious projects to somebody else and worried that they wouldn't treat them as nicely as I would.
And I think that this desire to be in person more with people, that goes along with your word of the year. You want to talk about that a little bit too?
Yes, my word for the year is experiences. I want to enjoy and try experiences. So that means in January, my experiences of trying new things. So I decided to try an art quilt. Wow, it was so scary. But it worked. And trying to meet new people. So I'm teaching a couple of new classes to me at my local quilt shop and experiencing that. And you're like, well, they might work, they why not? But you always learn something. I think they'll be fine. I've done a lot of these types of things in the past, so it'll be fine. But there's always that anxiety of, oh, it's something new and I've never done it before. And it's so easy to say, no, I'm going to keep my world small and not experience it. So, yeah, new experiences and being open to having an experience.
Exactly.
Because I find the older I get, the more I could keep my world really small if I wanted it to just be in my little town and my little circle of friends. And that's not what I want it to be.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And yeah, that goes right along. My word of the year is embrace change. And what I've decided is no matter what ends up happening, it's going to get a lot more interesting. You know,
Absolutely.
like let's look for something that's interesting. It can be scary, but if we look at it from the framework of that's interesting, then it's not so scary anymore. I love that.
No, and I think, the other part is that, about the time I started blogging, I had a mild form of cancer, and it was a great way for me to, keep my mind focused on what was important. But going along with the experiences is that changed my life, of going, you know what, I need to experience everything I can, because one never, ever, ever knows, what's going to happen to us, maybe financially, maybe health-wise, maybe job-wise. I'm getting older, I can't stand at the long arm as many hours as I used to. And experiencing as much as you can, because when you get older, I'm starting to get to that age where, my kids have left home, and I've worked at the same day job now for almost 20 years. You can get into a rut of not experiencing new things. And the next thing you know, 10 years have gone by, and you're like, what? How did that happen?
Yeah. What happened in the last 10 years? I don't know. I don't remember. I was working too much or, just being busy.
Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
The other part is you want to try to plan to do all those cool things. Like we want to try to go on an international trip in the next 18 months. Okay, so what do we have to do to make that experience happen? There's going to be a lot of sacrifice and a lot of me getting in shape because, I chose not to experience the gym and I need to. I want to be able to walk and go on all these places that I want to go see. So, yeah, so experiences. So changes, yeah, that's a interesting word because I've had the same thing, you go through a period of time and you're like, whoa, where did all these changes come from? But our flexibility of accepting it and knowing that it's part of this awesome journey we're on. Absolutely. It's a very cool thing.
Absolutely. And it also gives you an opportunity to look back and go, oh man, things were so hard before. Oh man, things were so easy before. I mean, it can kind of go either way, but life is life, and we just have to rise to the challenge. That was my word last year. Rise to the challenge of whatever life brings. Yes.
And last year I really liked, I think I've adopted it as an everyday thing now. It was present, be present, like being very mindful of what we were doing. So I found that to be interesting because I've done a lot of research on mindfulness and all that. But Gretchen Rubin does a little podcast on happiness, and she did an interesting thing yesterday saying a quote from Laura Ingalls Wilder, like almost 100 years ago, about how everybody was so stressed with all the changes and all of this hustle and bustle of life and not experiencing everything. And I got thinking, really, that's interesting. So maybe this is an internal thing for me versus we are busy people, with the fast technology and stuff, but it's been a problem, I think, that many, many creative people have experienced for many, many years, is this, everything is so much, we've got so much we want to do, and yet we need to slow down and experience what we're doing and focus on this everyday mundaneness is cool, but we've got to also embrace the changes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Vicki. I thoroughly enjoyed talking with you today about blogging. And yeah, I hope you have some amazing experiences this year. And I love that word too, present. That was excellent. So
yes, it's really made a difference in my life. And I know that every year we pick a word And it winds up having way more impact on my psyche than I ever, ever, ever thought it would be. So it's been wonderful talking to you also. And I really look forward to seeing all the changes that you implement in 2019.
Oh, thank you so much. So that's it for this episode. Make sure to check out Vicki's blog at mycreativecorner3, that's the number 3.wordpress.com. Until next time, let's go quilt.